First and foremost, if you're watching this and you are a working pregnant mom, please know I think you are a superhero. So great job, Mom. So I made this video because I found it very, very difficult to know where the resources were for the working moms. So not only when you're pregnant, which is your FMLA, but also what happens if after your pregnancy, you're still finding yourself dealing with some of the difficult symptoms. So I wanted to combine resources for you. In a later video, we'll also talk about more information on this topic, but this one is mainly the different resources you need to know about and the accommodations you can request. So let's dive in. First and foremost, let's talk about what is ADA accommodations. So ADA accommodations was meant so then that way, if you could possibly do your job with just a few accommodations, that your work would provide those accommodations. It's actually an amazing act. If you have a moment and you do want to research it, I strongly suggest it. It's one of the things that I am very grateful that we have. So let's talk about some ADA accommodations that can actually help someone who's pregnant. First and foremost, you have things like extra breaks. You can get extra break. If you need to go on light duty, you can do light duty. If you need a stool because you've been sitting, you can do that. If you need to be able to carry your water bottle around, you can do that. Things like recording meetings if you're having problems with your memory. Things like extra time to do notes after a meeting, things like that. Personal time off in order to go to your appointments. Possible work from home if you want to do remote work. That is a possibility if your accommodations can allow. Now here's the thing you have to be mindful of. The ADA accommodations have to be reasonable, and if it ever could create a hardship for your company, they could come back and deny it. So let's talk really quick about what an accommodation could be. So if you go to Jan, this is actually a really good resource. There's a lot of information. So I'm just kind of going over just a few bits that's on the home page. But if you actually click on A to Z, that's going to show you from A to Z the disabilities. So you have several options. You can do it by disability, limitation. Good deal. So there's a lot here. So let's look at an example really quick. So for us and this topic, let's look at pregnancy. And it shows you exactly what accommodations would be quote unquote considered reasonable. Another good example I want to look at really quick is, let's say you're struggling with postpartum depression. So postpartum depression doesn't have its own topic. However, depression does. So we will go to depression, and you can see same thing. There's all the accommodations you can ask for, but then there's even more. There's also some resources as well as tools. So this is an amazing website. Go ahead, visit Jan, and utilize the tools that are on here, because that's exactly how you're going to find the best help. Another great resource is the EEOC. Has lots of information, as well as you'll see on the right hand side lots of infographics. So if you prefer visual, which most people do, you can do that. There's also a list of reasonable accommodations as well, so even more. You can also find lots of good resources on DOL, D-O-L. And this specifically is for the Family Medical Leave Act. So lots of good information here. There's fact sheets as well as posters. So those are just the basics of the accommodations you can request if you are pregnant. There's several resources out there. The EEOC includes a whole resource on what happens if your employer discriminates you or retaliates against an accommodation request, or the fact that you need an accommodation. There's also a lot of guidance on the EEOC website to help actually drive your process, so then that way you don't feel lost. The dole actually has a good explanation as to what the Family Medical Leave Act is, as well as some forms on there. And then every state has the potential to be different. So don't forget that. So you want to make sure to research this information for your state as well as for your company size, because depending on the size of your company could mean that your benefits or accommodations could be viewed or done differently. So just keep those things in mind. Later, we'll talk more about these types of benefits and then keep rolling from there. But for now, I hope you have a very blessed week. Goodbye.